Thank you, Eric, and thanks everyone for joining us today. That was a tremendous presentation there by Gord. When I lived in Chile and worked for Rio Tinto, I visited that mine, so that looks like a serious discovery. So congrats on that. That's what the market needs. We've got a very nice forward-looking statement there. But I think, the last time I was here, I presented probably about 3 months, Eric, and firstly, I must give a shout out to Eric and Scott and the team here, because I think, for you investors, it's so hard to go through the sort of 2,000 or so junior mining and exploration companies and figure out where to invest. Certainly is hard for me, and I do it every day. So having that filter there, that Eric and Gwen and the rest of the guys do, gives you such a leg up over the rest of the market. So they do a tremendous job, and I thank them for that. We put out some good drill results. There's a couple of things here that I think are interesting. We acquired this project late last year. We hit the ground running, raised $6 million, did a MAG survey, ZTEM survey, just drilled 18 holes, waiting on assays now, and very pleased to report that the first drill holes were, proving up what we thought might be there. The first hole from southeast, we hit 66 metres at 0.9% copper equivalent, and that was in a broader section of nearly 300 metres at about 0.6. So we're very happy with those results, and they continue to come in as we speak. I think we've got a big batch of assays coming in the next week or so, so that should see a news release in the next couple of weeks. I was up at site there a couple of weeks ago, and very pleased to report that there's some really good-looking core there, juicy core. So I'm excited to see what those next few drill holes might hold. Now, as you know, I love to talk about the copper market. There's one of those yawning chasm supply gap charts. Just on that, look, I know Eric outlined the short-term macro picture there very well. I thought there's a few sort of hairs on the market at the moment. A little bit of there's ructions that are happening in China, concerns about a recession. I think that we probably do, in all honesty, have a few challenges over the next 6 months, but that hasn't stopped the key macro picture of this energy transition we're going through, met by a seriously challenged market. And I'm on record now as saying that I think we'll see $20 or $30 a pound copper. People say I'm mad for saying that, but if you go back to the last cycle from 2000 to 2011-12, when I joined Rio Tinto in 1999, the copper price was 71 cents a pound. No one ever thought that it would go to $4. Of course, it went to $4.60, 6 times the price. Now, we've seen this in recent history. It's not unprecedented. We've seen it in 2007 with the uranium market, uranium price going from $9 a pound to $150 a pound. We've seen it with lithium. Lithium's gone up 20 times in the past couple of years. I think we're going to see the same thing with copper. The driver for that that dramatic increase in the copper price, of course, was a big but largely localised factor. It was the urbanisation of a large part of China, and that saw a 30% increase in copper demand. This time round, and don't take my word for it, listen to the experts at companies like Glencore and Trafigura, we're going to see the same 30% increase in demand coming. But now we're backed by a much more challenged supply side. I simply can't see how we can permit and keep up and produce an extra 7 or 8 million tonnes of copper per annum. It ain't out there. So we've got to find more. And I think in the meantime, we're going to see extraordinarily high copper prices in the next 5 to 10 years. So you've got a little bit of time to get set, but not much. If you look at the uranium market, the uranium price started to move up a month ago, and everything's doubled or tripled in that month. So you want to be well ahead of the curve and not muck around and get yourself set. So copper's, and of course, copper is the thing that keeps us alive in terms of metals. It's the most important metal fundamentally. We're surrounded by it. It's in everything we do, and it's such an important metal to the planet. And just quickly on the project, You know, I know a lot of you out there know about this project. It's a legendary project, a little bit of a mythical project in British Columbia. I think, you know, to go to Gord's, back to where Gord's exploring, of course, Chile is the greatest copper producer on the planet. Codelco, the biggest copper producing company. British Columbia gets a little bit of a bad rap as, oh, well, we only have low-grade porphyries. Well, it's not true. And I think, you know, with more exploration and more detailed work to understand these systems, and they're pretty complicated things, these porphyries in British Columbia, we have an opportunity to become the next Chile of the planet and become a really major, much larger copper producer than we are now. And there's certainly high-grade projects out there. If you look at New Afton, about 100 million tonnes at 1% of copper equivalent, some really good drill results coming out of the Mount Polly mine as we speak. There are high grades out there, and you'll see that when I get further into this presentation. But we sit there in the Williams Lake area, just next to Williams Lake. It's a fabulous place to explore, flat ground. You can drill year round, so you'll see year-round drill results coming from us. There's power lines crisscrossing the property and roads. And interestingly enough, when we announced that red gold deal, that put our property within 10 kilometres of the Mount Polly mine itself. You can see the scale of the property there, about 30 kilometres across by 30 kilometres north-south, so it's a huge property. I like to say, you know, I've been doing porphyry exploration for 20-odd years now. My conversion rate of target to discovery is about 0%. These guys, previous explorers here, are absolutely phenomenal. They tested 8 targets, of which 6 resulted in a porphyry centre discovery. So it's a tremendously prospective area. I think there's going to be a lot of discoveries made on that property and a lot of high-grade copper and gold. I haven't got too much longer, so I'll just get into why we bought this project for $11 million back at the end of the year. It was an absolute steal. I think it's probably worth a few $100 million. Don't tell Bill Morton that, but for that $11 million, we acquired nearly 2 billion pounds of copper and 1 million ounces of gold. This was one of Goldfields. Up to 2013, Goldfields had spent $30 million and drilled 120,000 metres. So we've got all of that data, all of that resource they've proven up. This resource hasn't been updated since 2013. Goldfields converted their interest in the property to an interest in the Wood Jam Company, which now means they sit on our register as a major and interested shareholder. But in the last 11 years, the Wood Jam guys simply couldn't raise capital to test too much of these targets. So in the last 11 years, they drilled 15 holes. And tantalisingly, you can see some of those drill results there. 51 metres at 1.6% copper and 0.8 gold, 110 metres at 2.6 grams gold and 0.44 copper, and 361 metres at 0.8 gold and 0.12 copper. So you can't tell me there's no high-grade porphyries in British Columbia. They're out there. And our job is just so very, very simple. Get in and drill around those areas, advance our understanding of the geology and the controls on these high-grade zones, and look to continue to grow that high-grade resource. And what I would say there is that, you know, whilst the 263 million tonnes we've got there at the moment is at a 0.4% copper equivalent. Now, you know, it looks a bit low grade, that, but don't worry about that. When copper's $20 or $30 a pound, this will be worth billions of dollars. But if you look at the Deerhorn number there, I'll point to that, this 33 million tonnes. That's at about 0.7% copper equivalent. And I think once we start to drill more of those high-grade zones and factor in some of these high-grade results of the last 10 years, you'll start to see that resource base grow. And what I'd love to see from the project is we prove up a resource of 50 to 100 million tonnes at about, you know, somewhere around 1% of copper equivalency. And I think we have every chance of doing that. Particularly from these first few drill holes that we've just completed in the past few days. One of the things we did was a mag survey over the property earlier this year. It came up with 102 discrete mag targets, some of which look very much like porphyry-related magnetic targets. So we're excited to get out and test those as well. We're going to be here drilling copper and gold for many, many years. So that's really it, Eric and everyone. Thank you for joining us. Key takeaway for me is we're very cheap. There's a lot of copper and metal in the ground there already proven up, but really good news flow over the next couple of months as we get these assays back for the drilling that we've just completed. Thank you very much.